What's going on, guys? John Alder here from Codemy.com, and in this video, we're going to look at using databases with Django and Python. All right, guys, like I said, in this video, we're going to look at databases. But before we get started, if you like this video, you want to see more like it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and check out Codemy.com, where I have dozens of courses with hundreds of videos that teach you to code. Use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off membership. That's all my courses, videos, and books for one-time fee at just $49, which is insanely cheap. Okay, like I said, in this video, we're going to start to dive into database stuff. So we've got our app here. It's got some cool things. We can create calendars. We can navigate around. We've got the start of a look and feel going with the nav bar at the top. But now we want to make this more functional. We want to have database functionality in this app. So what we're doing is building a club app. So we've got a club, and a club could have events like you're throwing a party or some sort of event. That event will have a venue. So like, where's it going to be? And our club app will have members. So people can sign up and become members to the site, and they could say, hey, I'm going to this event at this venue or not, or whatever. So we need to keep track of a bunch of different things: events, venues, and members at least. So that's going to be 3 different database tables. So right away, we're going to jump right in and start using multiple tables. So usually when you start to learn Django, you create a simple table, and we'll do that. But we're also then very quickly going to jump in and start adding other tables, linking them all together, having associations between them, and it's going to be really cool. So that's what we're going to start to look at in this video. So the first thing we need to do is head over to our admin section. And you can see I'm getting an error when I try to log in. The Django administration area is the section of the website that lets you deal with the database right from the web browser. And eventually we're going to make all this into the website so people can log in, sign up without going through the admin area. But right at the beginning, when we're building this out, we're going to use this administration area to make sure our models and our database tables are correct and add data on the back end that way. So the first thing we need to do is create a username and a password that allows us to access this thing. So let's head over to our terminal and Control-C to break out of the server, because the server should be running in the background. Now, to create a user, we need to create a super user. Now, I'm using the git bash terminal, so my command is going to be a little bit different than if you're using a different terminal. So I should note we're in the c/myclub/myclub website directory. If we type ls, we see there's our manage.py file. That always tells us that we're in the right place. If you see your manage.py file, you're in the right place. We've got our virtual environment turned on, and that's important too. So the normal command to create a super user is Python manage.py create super user. But that won't work for us because we're using the git bash terminal. So for us, we have to type win pty Python manage.py create super user. So if you're using the same git bash terminal that I am, this is the command you use. Otherwise, it's just Python manage.py create super user. So whichever you're using, go ahead and hit that. And you see we get an error right off the bat. And that's because when you create a Django project, it sets up a database for you with admin stuff. But we have to actually push that into the database, that migration. So the command for that is Python manage.py migrate. And I usually do that right when I create a Django project. I just forgot to do it this time. So, okay, that's created that migration. Now we can do that same win pty Python manage.py create super user command, and now it will work. So what username do you want? I'm going to type in admin. Email address, we could put that or not. Doesn't really matter. I usually leave it blank. Now password, remember this. This is the password we're going to use to log into the admin area. So write it down, remember it, whatever. So you can see it's not showing on the screen as I type. That's a security measure. That's normal. And okay, our super user was created successfully. So let's go Python manage.py run server to make sure that works. So our server's running. Let's head back over to our website. Let's reload the admin area. And the admin page is just localhost 8000/admin. And then it will redirect to the actual page itself. See? So, okay, let's try this out. Admin, and type in our new password. And boom, we're logged into the Django administration user. Now, there's nothing here yet except for this users table, right? That has our user that we just created. But very quickly, we're going to add our other tables and they'll show up here. So let's head over to our code and start to do that. So the really nice thing about Django is that it abstracts away the database from you. So you don't have to know SQL. You don't have to know Postgres, MySQL, SQLite, Oracle. You don't need to know any of these databases. You can use all of those databases, but you don't need to know how to use them. Django will do all the work for you. All we have to do is define our tables using Python classes, and then it will then convert that into SQL or whatever structured query language that particular database uses. All behind the scenes, all away from us. We don't have to worry about any of that. So with Django, you will never be writing SQL code, ever. So if you went out and learned Postgres because you want to use it with Django, sorry, you're not going to use any of that. You can use Postgres, but you're not going to use the SQL language that Postgres uses to create database stuff. We're just going to use regular Python. And that's a bummer if you spent all that time learning MySQL or Postgres or all those things because you don't need to know that stuff. This way is much, much easier, as you're going to see very quickly. So let's head over to our events directory and look at our models.py file. This is where we're going to do all our database stuff. And you can see it's empty. It's got a comment in there. We can get rid of that. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a class called event. And this inherits models.model. And we put a colon there. And now notice this is a lowercase m and this is an uppercase m. Because see up here, we're from Django.db database. We're importing models. And from models, we want to inherit models.model, right? We really don't care what that is. That's just what you do. So now we can just define the columns in our table. So we've got an event. What sort of things do we need? Well, we need to name the event, right? We probably want an event date, right? When is it going to be? We probably want to know a venue, right? Where is it going to be, right? Who's in charge of this event? We'll call them the manager, right? And well, let's give it a description, right? Let's say a little bit about it. Now we'll add a couple more things shortly. We're going to add like attendees who can join this event. We're going to flush out this venue thing, make it more interesting. But for now, these are the things we want in this table. These are the things we want to keep track of when it comes to events. So how do we do it? So it's really easy. We just call models dot and now define the data type that you want. And this is going to be car field. Now, if you've done any work with databases, you know all about data types. You have to define the kind of data that's going to be held in this little area here that we're creating. And a car field just stands for character field. So text, right? Words. So a name, that's going to be words, right? For instance, this date, that will be models.datetime field. Why? Because it's the date. And this is how we handle dates. We use the date time field. That will keep track of, formatting for dates, right? So really simple. There's, a handful of different data types. We're going to go through most of them, so I'm not going to go into great detail about them right now. Maybe we'll talk more about them in the future, but as they pop up, I'll explain them. So car field is characters. So inside of here, we need to do a few things. Let's name this thing. Let's call this event name, because that's the name of our event. And now we should probably say the max underscore length and set that equal. I'm going to put this to 120. Now we're saying how many characters can be held in this field. And I'm going to say 120. You really don't have to do this. Back in the old days when computers weren't very strong and there wasn't a whole lot of memory or disk space, it was important to define exactly how many characters each column and field would hold. Nowadays, it's not such a big deal, but we still do it anyway. So 120 characters, letters, is probably more than enough to name an event, so we'll leave it at that. One thing I will note, this is a lowercase l. That's not capitalized. This is a capital L. See, it's very angular. This is sort of swoopy. It's lowercase. It's just the way Sublime works. That is definitely a lowercase l. So if you put a capital L, you'll get an error. So, okay, that's good for name. Now for event date, let's just name this event date. And you don't necessarily need to name these things, but we might as well. Okay, so the venue, for now, this will be a models.car field. And also notice this is a capital C and a capital F. So that sort of changes in between there. So that's kind of interesting. And for now, let's just give this a max underscore length of 120. We're going to change this in a minute anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So for manager, I'm just going to come up here and copy this guy. So for the manager, we also want it to be a models.car field. And let's put 60 for the max length there. And we don't really need to name this one. You can see we don't have to name them. And for description, we want not just a car field, we want like a little text box, right? So to do that, that's models.text field. And then here we want to say blank equals true. So we don't have to put a description if we don't want to. So if we leave that blank, that's fine. Blank equals true will let us do that. So that is all there is to this, right? And it's just that easy. So we have now created a table. Now there's 2 more steps. We need to make a migration and then push that migration. That's anytime you make a change to your database model, you need to make a migration and push a migration. That's not really a Django thing. That's pretty much universal for web frameworks when you're dealing with databases. Ruby on Rails is the same way. You make a migration, you push the migration. And the migration is sort of like the snapshot of this class we just created. Then Django will convert that into SQL, into the database language itself, and then have it all there. Then you push that into the database and it starts working. So 2 steps, make a migration and push the migration. And you do that in the terminal, and we'll do that in just a minute. But there's one more thing I want to do here. Down here inside of this class, let's give this a couple of spaces, and let's create another little function here. And let's go define, and then underscore underscore str underscore underscore. And now this is a function we want to pass in self. And inside of here, let's return self.name. And this is just this thing right here. So what this whole thing does is it allows us to use our model in the admin area that we just set up. Remember, we just created a super user. This will allow this to pop up on that page, and it'll list the name for each event. And then we can click on them and go into it. But to do that, we have to do this little thing right here. So we'll add this to the admin area in just a second. I think instead of pushing this into the database, I'm going to keep building this out. So we've got a class for events. We also probably want one for the venue itself. So let's go class venue, and let's call models.model again. Now, what do we want for our venue? Well, it needs a name, and it probably needs an address. Where's this going to be? And addresses usually need zip codes. So let's go zip code. And let's give this a phone number. So, if it's at the park, we'll have the park office phone number or whatever, so you can rent the pavilion or whatever phone number. Maybe it also has a web address. So we'll do that, and also an email address, right? So if this is at a club downtown, the club has an address, it has a zip code, has a phone number, probably has a website, probably has an email address, whatever. So that's good. So, okay, for the name, let's go models.carfield, and let's call this venue name, and also give this a max underscore length of, let's say 120. For address, again, let's give this a models.carfield, and let's give this a max underscore length of a little bit more, let's say 300 characters. Okay, for the zip code, now you might be thinking, well, zip codes are numbers, so should we use like an integer field or something? Nah, we just want to keep this a car field. We're not going to treat this as a number. It's more descriptive. So let's go zip code. And let's give this a max underscore length of like, I don't know, 15, 10, 12, whatever. Zip codes aren't very big, so we don't need a whole lot there. So the phone number, let's go models.carfield again. And let's just say contact phone. And let's give this a max underscore length of like 25. Again, phone numbers aren't very long, so that's okay. So the web, we can go models.url field. A URL is Uniform Resource Locator. That's the name for a link, right? A web link. So Django will sort of keep track of that website address. And there's reasons why we want to use a URL field instead of a car field. It will validate it as being a valid URL, whereas car field just records whatever you type in. So we'll take advantage of that going forward. And finally, for email address, let's go models.email field. Same thing. Let's say email address. Same thing here as the URL field. This allows us to do some, this will allow Django to validate the email address behind the scenes. So like if you enter an email address that's not valid, if you don't use the @ sign, Django will throw up a little arrow that said, hey, you forgot the @ sign, or that doesn't look like a valid email address, try again. It'll do that all automatically if we use this email field. So that's pretty cool. So now we've got this venue and we've got this event, but it seems to me that these two should be connected. So you can't really have an event without a venue, right? So here we've got the venue and we're just listing, the venue name, but that doesn't make sense. These two should be connected. So instead of doing this, let's create a different venue and let's set that equal to models.foreign key, right? So a foreign key allows us to connect two tables. So this class is a whole table by itself. This class is a whole table by itself. We can connect them with a foreign key. And so how do we connect these? Well, we say this is a foreign key, and then we say, well, which table do we want to connect to? Well, we want to connect to venue. That's what we named it right here, right? So venue. We want to call this blank equals true, just in case there isn't one yet, and null equals true. It's sort of common what you do in case there isn't one yet when you create one. And that's all there is to it. Now these are connected. So now we can call events.venue and all of this information will be available to us. So we would call event.venue.name and it will give the name of this venue that's connected to this event. So very, very cool. So, okay, almost done. Let's see. We want to do the same thing we did down here for this guy. So let me just pop this in. And I think self.name is fine. The name of the venue. Okay. So let's also deal with members or users. So we want people to be able to sort of sign up for our website, log in, say I'm going to this event or I'm at this venue or whatever. So we need to keep track of those people. So let's call this, I don't know, MyClubUser, whatever. And we want to inherit models.model again. And colon. And this one's going to be very simple. We just want a first underscore name. We want a last underscore name. And we probably want an email, right? So here we just want models.carfield again. And let's just give this a max underscore length of 30. And let me just copy this whole thing and do the same thing for last name. And then for email, we want models.emailfield again. And then let's just call this user email. So now we want to do this same thing, but we want to modify it a little bit. So let me just pop this in here. And instead of return self.name, we want to return self.first underscore name. And let's also concatenate and also do a space and then a plus and then also self.last underscore name. All right, so this will put the first name and the last name on the screen in one little string. So, okay, that looks good. Okay, so now we've got these three classes, these three tables, and this isn't connected to anything else. So we want the users to be able to have as many events and venues as they want. You can sign up to 20 events, 50 events, 1 event, 0 events. So we need a many-to-many relationship. We want to have many users connected to many events. And we want to sort of connect this user to this event table. So we can do that by coming down here and let's create a field called attendees. And this is going to be a models dot, and you might think foreign key, right? Because we're connecting two things, and to connect two tables, we use a foreign key. We used a foreign key here because we're connecting one thing, one-to-one or one-to-many, right? So an event is only going to have one venue, right? So we use a foreign key. An event might have many users, right? Many people are coming to an event. So we don't have one foreign key. And also a user might go to many venues. So we need a many-to-many association. So to do that, we call a many-to-many field, right? So what do we want to connect to? Well, we want to connect our users. So this is MyClubUser. So we just pop that in there. And let's go blank equals true, because right off the bat, you're not going to have any events yet, right? So you just sign up to the website. You haven't said you're going to any events, so blank can be true. So, okay, that looks good. We went through this very quickly and covered a whole lot of information here, and we're not quite done yet. We want these three things to be able to sort of show up in our admin area. And if we've forgotten, then that's this area right here. So we need to add those 3 tables to our admin area. We still also have to actually make the database tables themselves. We haven't done that yet. We'll do that next. So first, let's head over to events/admin.py. And this is our admin area. So we need to add those 3 tables. So first we need to import them. So from .models, we want to import venue. And let me just copy this 3 times. We want to import venue. We want to import MyClubUser. And we also want to import event, right? So we're calling .models because that references our models.py file, .models. The dot means it's in this directory, right? So we're saying, hey, in this directory, this events directory, use the models file, which is models.py. All right, so we import them. Now we also have to register each model. So let's go admin.site.register. And let's just copy this 3 times. And here we just go venue. And then we go MyClubUser. Sure and spell it right. And then event. Okay, so now these 3 tables will be able to be used in our admin area. So now the only thing left to do is to push these into our database. And remember, I said it's always a 2-step process. So let's break out of here. And like I said, 2-step process. We have to make a migration and then push a migration. So let's go Python manage.py make migration. We're missing a positional argument. Oh, I did miss that. So, okay, head back over here very quickly. Now, anytime we delete something, so let's say we've got an event and we delete it. Well, that event also has a venue and that venue needs to be deleted as well. So we need to tell our model, hey, if we delete something over here, delete everything that's connected to it, right? So come down here to our foreign key. And remember, we were connecting to venue. We put blank equals true and null equals true. We also need to do on_delete. We want to go models.CASCADE, all in capital. So cascade means sort of like ripple down and delete everything below that's connected to it, right? Cascade and delete, right? So that'll handle that. Now, do we want to do the same thing down here for our attendees? Well, no, because if we delete an event, right, we don't want to delete all the users too. The users just won't be going to that event anymore, but they'll still exist. I mean, we're not going to like kick everybody out of the website just because we deleted an event. So we don't want to delete any users if we delete an event. So we'll keep that the same. So let's go ahead and save this. Let's head back over to our terminal. So we can run this command again, Python manage.py make migration. Oh, and you know what? That should be an S, make migrations, okay? So, and you can see it's created 3 migrations, MyClubUser, venue, and event, because we have 3 tables, right? Now, if we head back over here and we look in here, we see a migrations folder. And inside of here, we've got our migration that we just created. And we've got our MyClubUser, we've got our venue, and we've got our event. And we've got these migrations that are ready to be pushed now into the database. So we can go ahead and close that. So that was step 1, make migrations, plural, right? Now, finally, we just go Python manage.py migrate. So this will now push the stuff, and it did, and we're good to go. So let's go Python manage.py run server, and let's check out our admin area to see if these things have been added. So we can come back over here, hit reload, and boom, now we have these 3 tables, event, MyClubUsers, and venues. So very cool. So let's head over to MyClubUsers and let's add a user. Now, like I said, we're going to make this to where people can sign up on the website. They won't have to go through this admin area. But for right now, while we're working on this, while we're building this out, we're just going to use the admin area to add data like this. So I'm going to go John Elder, and my user email is john@codemy.com. We can save this. Now, if we go back to our admin area, we can see MyClubUser. We click on this, boom, John Elder is now listed. So here, let's add another one, Jane Elder. And let's go jane@codemy.com, whatever. So now we save this, boom. Now we have John Elder and Jane Elder. And you notice it says John Elder, 2 words, first name, last name. And that's because over here in our models.py file, we put self first name plus self last name. If we, for instance, got rid of that, let me comment this out. and then save this and come back over here and hit reload. Now it just says Jane and John, right? So that's kind of cool. So let's put this back in there, save it, come back over here, hit reload. And you'll notice we did not have to make a migration and push a migration when we made that simple change. Let's just sort of keep that in mind. So, okay, we've got now MyClubUsers. We click on this, we can update them. We can also now create an event. So let's add an event. And so let's softball at the park. I don't know. When is the date? You can see we get this little date field. It does it for us. What time? Midnight? Right? I don't know. What venue? Well, there aren't any venues, right? So before we create this event, let's go back and create a venue. So I can click on venues right here. Let's add a venue and let's call this City Park. I don't know. Address is 111 City Park Drive. Zip code is 89129. I don't know. 111-222-3334. This is the phone number. The website address is citypark.com. I don't know. HTTPS. Email address is park@park.com. So if we save this, okay, that's cool. Notice we come back here and try and put something like park and then save it. Please correct the error below. We get validation. That's why we use that email field, because it will validate things like that, and this too. So let's go ahead and save this. Okay, so now let's go back to events and add an event, and we can say, what was it? Softball at the park. It is going to be, let's say, the end of February at midnight. The venue, it's going to be at City Park. We get a nice little drop down. Who's the manager? John City Park. Mr. John City Park, son. I don't know. Come join us to play softball at the park. Okay, so who's attending? Let's say John Elder's attending. And maybe that's all, or maybe Jane Elder. So I hold the control button and I can click both of them. So, okay, let's go ahead and save this. So we've got softball at the park. If we come back here to our admin area and we've got all of our things, let's say we click on events, softball at the park. There's all the stuff. Here's who's coming. If we go to MyClubUsers and click on John Elder, nothing has changed there. Click on venues, we have City Park, and we are coming right along. So this is now fully functioning. Now, none of this works on the actual website. This is all just in the admin area. In the next video, we'll start to add all these things to the website. But for now, we've defined our database. We have created 3 separate tables, right? So we've got the venue table, the MyClubUser table, and the event table. We've connected them with a foreign key and a many-to-many field. And so now we can say, hey, name all the people that are coming to such and such event. Or, hey, name all the venues that are associated with such and such event, or whatever. Very cool and really pretty easy. So that's all for this video. If you'd like to, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and check out Codemy.com where you can use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off memberships. We pay just $49 to access all my courses, over 47 courses, hundreds of videos, and the PDFs of all my best-selling coding books. Join over 100,000 students learning to code just like you. My name is John Elder from Codemy.com, and I'll see you in the next video.